Endless Evolution is a community engaged in the exploration of human experience. We engage with one another to understand our unique paths. We talk, we laugh, we heal, and we invite others to share this journey with us. Won't you join us? Endless Evolution.
So many humans, and where's the humanity?
Hey Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to be back here with you, recording for Endless Evolution. It's
I
been a
am
long time, but we needed to step back yet again. I think
absolutely.
as we live into the name of our podcast, we are constantly
Yes.
evolving, and
Yeah.
looks like we're going to be jumping into a possible new format here, trying it out
Yeah.
today.
I,
Um,
I I I can't wait. And it's so good. I mean, we talk all the time and see each other, but it's just so good to be back in this space. And just I think at the beginning of the podcast, we just talked about this idea of just continuing to be in community with people that you
right.
love, that you care about. And you and I are finding different ways to just stay in community, whether it's doing this or doing something else. It's just
Absolutely.
been great. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for anyone and everyone listening, we hope there's more than just two of you, but maybe if it's just two of you. Maybe we just listen to ourselves, who knows? But
Yeah.
we're going to be flipping the script a little bit in terms of how we conduct the podcast and really start digging into a lot of the topics that we've always talked about, but through the medium of literacy and books. And so every podcast, we're going to be talking about a book that we've read together. And, we'd invite you to maybe read along with us, or maybe it will inspire you to read the book. Eventually, maybe we'll do some lives, and maybe we'll even suggest or consider which is the next book we're going to read at the end of this. We have a whole list, but we're excited. And today we are going to be talking about, let's see, can we put in the camera? James.
James.
There you go. Your camera.
James.
I
Yeah.
blur on, so you're better.
Uh,
Um, by Percival Everett. It was a New York Times bestseller. Um, and we'll dig into it in a second. Also want to give space to our co-podcast host, Spencer Murray. He's had to step
yes.
away for a little while, but we'll come back from time to time and visit and or pop in
Absolutely.
and rejoin whenever he can. But we're just happy to be back and be in community with all of you.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Aaron and I are going to be kind of discussing the book, and as modern things come up for us, we may go off on a tangent. Knowing us, we probably will. But really just encourage you all, if you have not read the book yet, to dig in because it's one of my favorite books. It's
Yes.
in the short time that I've
Absolutely.
come to be familiar with it. It's on my list of favorites already.
Mine too. Mine too.
So do you want to
Um,
jump in, Aaron, and kind of lead us through what we're going to be talking about?
sure, sure. I have to say, first of all, when I first heard about the concept of this book,
Yeah.
that it was written from the perspective of Jim from Huck Finn, I'm like, man, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Like centering the voices of Black people in that horrible system of enslavement, just for me, just kind of turns Mark Twain's thing on its head, because there's some controversy around Mark Twain's like ideologies, and so I'm glad that Percival Everett did this, and the people that I've talked about that have read it already or that are reading it are saying nothing but good things about it.
And I'll add this first thing that jumped to my mind, knowing what the book was about. So, James, just to repeat, is that book, a parallel story of the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, but written from the point of view and voice of who's known as Jim and Huck Finn, who is James in this book.
Mm,
And I remember as a student in schools reading both Tom Sawyer and then Huck Finn,
hmm
and
hmm
teachers would run a parallel between, or a comparison, I would say, between those two books. And Huck was always presented as a much more favorable character because
hmm
he had this love for Jim and he
hmm
was like a benevolent white person, right?
Yeah.
So, you grow up with that image, and then Tom Sawyer was just this Southern dude who, in the end of Huck Finn, comes and kind of saves the day a little bit, which is
Hmm.
an interesting, yeah, evaluation, like you said, of Mark Twain's beliefs, writing styles, and
Yes.
voice.
Yeah.
What came to mind when I first read about this book was how amazing it would be to be back in the classroom right now and take students through the parallel study of Huck Finn and
Oh,
James, right? And have them
yes.
really compare, like, what does it do to center white voice versus what does it do to center black voice? Like,
Yes.
and, because of course, as we know, we ran literacy departments in school districts.
Yes.
We did all we could to infuse the curriculum with black centered voice,
Yes.
but it was often put to the side or often like, right, but that's just a black author and these are the classics, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
how powerful would it be to unpack the classics in this
Yes.
way? Yeah, it'd be
Oh, for sure. Like, and just like you think about the canon of literature, the so-called canon of literature, and black authors from, I guess, from a white perspective or from, an academy perspective,
right.
have not really been able to break into that canon. Toni Morrison is pretty widely accepted, but besides Toni Morrison, there are not really many authors who are accepted as having these canonical works, if you
Right.
will.
Right.
But the fact that this goes right at one of the or two
Yes.
of the books in the canon and just totally I was having this conversation with a different friend just recently, and we were talking about this idea of story versus counter story.
Hmm.
And so I was just without revealing what the book was about, I was saying that no, Black people's stories are not the counter stories. They are the stories. And then the counter stories are the ones that we hear all of the time, even though they are, sort of these widely accepted stories like Huck Finn or, Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird or, anything written by Shakespeare. I feel like that they just are considered the canon. But like, I was going to get into this question about like what your immediate reaction was when I finished, and I think I texted you once, and um, I was like, Jim is Huck's dad. I was like,
I
oh my god! So
know.
I had gotten to that critical point of like the climax of the story. I'm like, okay, I have to finish this tonight, and so and so, but my immediate reaction is like, damn, that is. I mean, I know it's like this. I mean, that's pretty simplistic, but it's like, damn, the whole book for me was irony or was ironic, and that I think that's what makes it so brilliant and so beautiful.
Well, yes, and I think you bring up a really incredible point. My first reaction was I was left speechless, honestly, with not only the storyline, right, and how he weaves, just how he parallel tells that story, right,
Hmm.
but the additions to it that
Hmm.
really give it a lot of texture and you know, teeth, I will say, that I never found in Mark Twain's writings. Like they kind of scratched surface on topics, but
Hmm.
never really dug in.
Hmm.
And what most impressed me about the book, to your point, is that he didn't write it as a reaction to Twain. He wrote it
Yes.
as an independent
Yes.
um narrative that James owns, right? And
Yes.
flips language on its head, right? Flips
Yes.
our concept around what's English, standard English, and what
Yes.
it was the English or the language of those who were enslaved. Like
Yes.
he flips that on its head, right? Like
Yes.
that the code was that language. Like they
Yes.
learned it wasn't so I was watching an interview with a famous black actress, and she was asked in this interview, does she code switch all the time? And assuming that in predominantly white spaces, she has to speak white speak in the
Hmm.
predominantly accepted language of the king, right? The king's language.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and amongst her own people, she could speak more colloquially.
Yeah.
And he flips it in this book.
Yes.
Totally flips it and says, we speak like enslaved people in front of white people so they don't understand all the shit that we know. Like,
Right. Absolutely.
that's brilliant.
It is. It
And it's
is.
also like reminded me of my own life and how we spoke in a different language in front of white people. My mom
Yes.
would speak Arabic to us at the stores so that they couldn't get into our world. They had
Yeah.
no access to us. And it was a
Yes.
power tool for us, right?
Yeah.
And it drives white people crazy when they can't control the narrative. And
Yes.
I loved that element of the book so much.
Oh yeah, it is my favorite element of the book, particularly when uh in growing up in I don't know what it was like growing up in an Arabic speaking household
Right.
or with an Arab identity. But in black households, like we're often told like you have to be two times better than everybody else and you have to speak correct English when you and the fact that he was teaching his children to speak black language, like
Yes.
he was teaching them the opposite of that. And connecting the language to this, it reminded me of Baldwin when Baldwin said that his father never told a white man the truth about himself
Mhm.
because they would not be able to reconcile in their minds that he wasn't the person who they thought he
Right.
was,
Right.
and therefore they would be upset. But like it would cause some like cognitive dissonance, and this book had a lot of cognitive dissonance
Yes.
when, particularly when like James or other black characters in the book spoke quote unquote standard English,
Correct.
um, and people were like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you talking
Right.
like that? Like,
Right.
like that was
Like
the
they could
that was
not
the
compute
anomaly."
that that
Yes,
language was coming out of his mouth so fluently, and he'd have to remind himself, oh, right, I have to speak like this enslaved language, this broken English, these made up
yes,
words for them to be able to then interact with me in a way that's comfortable for them, right? So
yeah,
it was fascinating how he played with that throughout the novel and
yeah.
how he turned that into, I don't know if it's his only power tool, but probably his most potent power tool, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you like? I know when I read certain books, I have a certain emotional response,
Yeah.
one way or the other. Do you feel like you had that? Did you go through different emotions
I
or?
definitely went through different emotions. I mean, I will say that him having to watch the young girl towards the end of the book die
Yeah,
and him having to witness her rape
yes,
um, was incredibly emotional for me
yeah,
and left me brokenhearted and very sad. And I could really empathize with how, impotent he felt in that moment to
yeah,
impact either one of those realities, right? He had to walk away from things. And I see, again, it evoked moments of connection for me that I didn't anticipate, right? Like where I'm seeing tragedies and horrors happen in real time, real life,
yeah.
right
Right,
now,
right,
and I can't do anything about it. And that if I
right.
step in, it actually makes it worse for everybody involved.
Yes.
So that's primarily what the big book did for me out, throughout was like make me feel emotions and then I would reflect on like, shit, I feel the same way and I can't even I felt vindicated at points and then I felt
Hmm.
joy at points, humorous,
Yeah.
philosophical, like the way he would go into all of the analysis of the different philosophers he had read
Uh-huh.
because
Oh yeah.
he was a voracious reader and would
Yes.
sneak in all these books out of the library of one of the families where he was working and where he was enslaved, right? and he had this amazing knowledge, and me reading along going, yeah, I thought the same thing when I read Locke. Like I thought,
Yeah.
like crazy, right? So
Right.
yeah, I felt an array of emotion. How about you?
Same, particularly during the scene where he was when the young lady got raped by the overseer.
Yeah.
There was one other scene, like, and I don't want to just talk about the so-called negative emotions, but there was one other scene when the other person who helped him find the pencil so he could
Oh,
write
right. Yeah.
was lynched
Yeah. For
for
the pencil.
for the pencil, and so it like for me, that pencil was symbolic of not only just its literacy, but it had more worth to it after the one guy got lynched for it. Like it was worth more because
Right.
he paid for it with his life,
With
and
life,
so
right?
and that was really emotional for me.
Yeah.
Um, also felt I can't. I don't want to say I can't believe I'm saying this, but I felt like maybe sadness is not the word. I felt something toward Huck. Like I
Mm.
couldn't say whether or not I I'm like, don't trust him. He's just gonna
Oh,
sell you
yeah.
out. Like particularly when Jim was trying to convince I think I can't remember if Jim tried to convince him or Huck tried to convince Jim to sell him or to act as though he owned him. So this boy who um this boy who seemingly was trying to help him, they had to they had to divert back to what the societal norm would expect or accept, and that
Yeah.
was that a white person could and would and should own another person, and therefore it was not like their relationship would not seem as unlikely as it would have if they said, "Oh, this is my friend," or "This is my dad, this is my son." You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Well, not that Huck knew at that time, right? But I
Right,
think
right.
I think the idea was actually James's idea because he was the more strategic one of the
Yes.
two, and he was older, right? And
Yeah.
so I I think I always knew it in Huck Finn because it was presented like that, but I
Yeah.
didn't think that the age discrepancy was as large in Huck Finn as it
Yeah.
here, and I felt some maternal feelings towards Huck. I felt like he he was definitely portrayed in a much more humanistic way
Yes.
than Twain ever portrayed him. He was
Right.
portrayed maybe as more benevolent than Tom, but he wasn't portrayed in this human way, right? And
Yes.
I was so glad that James did all he could to protect him, right?
Yes.
Then, of course, when the reveal comes that that was his son, you're like, well,
Yeah.
holy shit. Um, and he talks about being able to pass, right? And explaining that, like he had this power to pass in the white world, and because of that power to pass, like the things that they would be able to do because of that in those
Yeah.
scenarios with the other two guys. Yeah, I just really powerful.
I'm just thinking of it just now that was irony in and of itself that he he fathered a white son versus generally it was the enslaved women who were
Correct.
raped by the white men and impregnated and but this was the flip side of that, and you
Right.
you didn't often see that.
Right. And he talked about him and Huck's mother grew up together, right? Like,
Hmm.
and so it also made me question, like, were there real feelings there too?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It I also think about, like, I remember I read the reviews about it before I read it, saying that, oh, there are these funny points in it, and it did have humor, but the humor was to some degree like it might have been like some laugh out loud humor, but it was
Right.
humor. It was humor in the sense that one, it wasn't what we would expect would happen, um, and Just like when he joined the vaudeville, I don't know, it was vaudeville or the minstrel
Oh, no,
show.
the minstrel show, right? And he had to, like, everybody else was a bunch of white people with blackface.
Yeah, and he's putting it on,
Oh
and
man.
he has to use his real
Right.
voice, but they think he's making it up. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant.
Well, the
The fact
layers
that he
upon layers, right? You know.
yeah, yeah, and it I think for this is what it did for me. It helped to add depth to the different experiences of Black people. So I, there was this interview some years ago, that I forget who was interviewing Toni Morrison, and she said the lives of Black people, like she was an editor at some point for I think Random House or some other big name publisher. So she had read all of these manuscripts, and she's like,
Right.
I can write better. I can write better than this. Like this is crap. I can write way better than this. She knew that the stories, she knew the stories that were being told, and her response was, well, Black people's lives have more depth than this. We have more color than this. We have more experience than this, than what's being portrayed. And so for me, what James did is it added that depth to it, particularly when he let us in on the conversations between him and other enslaved people, like that.
Yes.
That so yeah,
Or his
that
arguments in his dreams with Voltaire. Like,
oh yes,
like,
absolutely. Like you're
r-
other arguing Voltaire.
right. And I was like lost for a second. I'm like, oh shit, he's dreaming and he's arguing with Voltaire about, racism and what it means to be an abolitionist. And like,
Yes.
and it was so powerful because this is what it did to me to this point, Aaron. It showed the array of emotions of James
Yeah.
in the book.
Yes.
And growing up, um, I wasn't exposed to much literature that showed human emotion except for the main character, who most oftentimes was white,
Hmm.
whether female or male. You did not have a mirror or a window.
Yeah.
You didn't have a mirror to look into if you were different than that, and you didn't have a window to see through to see like what else were these people experiencing, which is what made it so easy to dehumanize everybody who was not white, right? Because
Yeah.
they weren't humanized in the literature that we read. We didn't
No.
we didn't see the layers, we didn't see the processing, we didn't see what was happening at home. We saw a
Yeah.
very like superficial, flat, like 1D image of everybody else
Yeah.
except for the main
Main
characters.
character.
And when you grow up on predominantly white literature, then that's all and it builds this paradigm in your head of like these
Yes.
all these other people are flat, you know?
Yes. Yes.
They
It is.
serve to function in the white person's world, and they don't have a world. And this cracked open his world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I was going to say like they remained as objects rather than subjects.
Yes.
And so, like, particularly when you talk about enslavement, like Black people were looked at as objects or chattel.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
so he just humanized, and not that I needed Percival Everett to do that, but I think he humanized James from the Mark Twain perspective, because his name you know, in Huck Finn was N-word Jim,
Right.
and so um, it just it just and there was one particular uh, conversation too, and I can't remember who he was talking to, but he was talking about the difference between dramatic irony and tragic irony. They're debating this as two enslaved people, and so I have to go back to my book of figurative language to look up the difference between dramatic irony and
Right.
tragic irony.
Right.
But like that sort of analysis, and I believe he did the analysis through the dialogue, which
Yeah.
I believe is genius.
He did. He did. I thought those dialogues and his dream sequences were
Oh yeah.
incredible. Like in his dream sequence with John Locke, Locke says to him, I mean, I wrote them a constitution to justify their
Yes.
behaviors. I wrote notes, right? Like I have notes because I was like, oh, I can't
So
just underline it. I need to know exactly which page so I can go back. Like there were
so
so many elements like that, you
I,
know?
I'm kicking myself when you say that because usually when I read fiction, I don't make notes in
Right,
fiction.
right,
So I'm getting halfway through. I'm like, shit, I should have been taking notes. I should have been underlining. I'm just reading. And so I'm kicking myself because I want to go back to certain pages. And like I made a couple here, but like I want to go back to certain pages and I'm like, oh, okay, which I don't know what chapter because the chapters aren't named. Like I don't know what chapter that's in
right.
because I didn't make that note. Um, that's when you again when you talk about John Locke, that the fact that he's arguing with these other people that we've read
Yes.
throughout literature and history and all of these different things, and he is rationalizing to them based off his real experiences, but just their because they're not characters in the book, but characters in his mind, so to speak, um, that he's battling with their ideologies,
Yes.
and maybe to a degree he's battling with his own ideology because if you're reading those people, you may be adopting those ideologies that they
Oh,
have.
for sure. And or right, he was reading these people who were the great philosophers of the Enlightenment on which the
Yes,
United States formal legal documents were apparently written and formulated. And he's like, wait a minute, enlightened. And the one with Locke really stood out with me because Locke was like, oh, I'm no fool. Believe me. I don't, these people are like the people that are enslaving you and doing all this shit, they're messed up, right? I think it
yes,
was similar in that conversation where he said something like, and I don't know if it's James that said it or if it was Locke that said it, but that outside of being cruel, the things that whites are most is gullible.
yes.
Like that quote to me, and I was
Oh
like,
my,
oh, like is he talking about today? You know?
yeah, right.
Because that's how I felt. But it was really powerful because it wasn't just about whites. It's like anybody who has that dominant power in society, they enact cruelty and they just believe shit because
Yes,
they're centered, right? So they believe what's told to them, they believe
yes.
what is fed to them, and they don't question it because why would they? They have all the powers. Yeah.
It's just the two. To your point, when they met the two guys, and
Yes.
one said he was the king and he was the duke, and they're telling about talking about you know their lives as king and duke, and Huck is like, really, really, you
Yeah.
that's really what happened? Are you really them? And he's like looking at him like, are you crazy?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, to that point that white people are gullible, and so he could act in certain ways that they expected him to act, and they would
Correct.
believe him.
Correct.
Yeah, man, that's
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, that's it was a constant exploration of his agency, right? Like his using his own voice to control and manipulate situations to protect him, to protect Huck, to protect the others that were with him for a while. His ability to, when he was with the minstrel group, to be like, wait, I can just leave?
yeah,
Like, and then question like, but you're gonna come after me if I leave, right? Like there
yeah,
is no real agency here. And then he's like, no, wait, I'm gonna take this agency and I'm gonna leave,
yeah,
and then I'm gonna deal with things as they come because he was smart enough to know and to believe in himself. So I think he interrupted a lot of what was particularly laid out for us in Huck Finn by saying, no, James is going to be smart. He's going to be witty. He's going to be
yes.
strategic. He's going to leverage his voice when he needs to. He's going to yield language as power. Like, just, it was brilliant. Yeah.
There was that one part when the guy who purchased him to be the tenor in the minstrel show,
Yeah.
and he's having that conversation with him, and he's like, "Oh, I can just leave. I'm not enslaved." Like he's like, "Well, yeah, but
You have
until
to
you
pay
work off,
off, right? Yeah,
you're right." And he's like, "Oh, so you're making a distinction between chattel slavery and it's servitude or indentured servitude?" And
correct.
the guy was like, "Wait, what? What did you say?" He's like, no, no, I don't want to repeat
Yeah.
it." So like that the ability to that's going to come out the wrong way. The fact that he showed his ability, that Percival Everett showed his ability to reason, to question, to analyze, to look at behaviors, like you said, to strategize. Like
Right.
he knew how to navigate white society almost better than white people did. I mean,
Oh,
if you
for
want to be honest
sure.
with you.
Just like at the very beginning when um the woman of the house where he was enslaved asked him,
Mhm,
"Hey James, have you seen these books or do you know have you been in the library of like the
mhm,
her husband?" And he's
mhm.
like, "What would I be doing in the library? You know, slaves can't read, right?"
Uh-huh.
Like, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. That makes sense."
Yeah, right.
He was that savvy even from the beginning of the book. I felt
Yes.
his agency and power, right? So yeah, I
Yes.
think I think gosh, this book is just it's brilliantly written.
It took me, when you're speaking about agency, it took me through some emotion too when he knew he had to go north to escape, the slave holding states,
Right.
even though slavery existed in the
Sure.
not in the
In the free state, yeah.
right. He knew he had to go north, but he was constrained. His agency was constrained in that way because he didn't want to leave his family. So um, when he kept saying, "Oh, we got to go south, we got to go south," I'm like, "No, don't go south." But then, I've never been in a situation where I'm like torn between my own freedom and the freedom of my family. And so, um, in a sense, he he adopted this this uh, this reality that he can't, even if he could free himself, he still wouldn't be free because he didn't have his daughter and his wife. And
Right.
so,
Right.
um,
That particular part too, Aaron, reminded me when I was at U of M college. I had a friend, Valerie, and she was from Florida, I think. Um, and she asked me one. Well, she was from New York. Okay,
mhm,
she was from St. Lucia, then grew up in New
mhm,
York, then was in Florida. And
uh,
she really struggled at U of M because she said, I can't trust people up here, Naomi. She said, down there, I know who doesn't like me. Up
yes,
here, it's like all covert,
yes,
and you're not quite sure. So I'd rather be in an environment where I know what I'm dealing with. And so that made me think the guy sitting at the river, what was it in, across the river that was free, was it Illinois? No.
yeah,
Was it Illinois? I don't
yeah.
remember. Okay.
It's
And they were,
either Illinois or Missouri.
right, they're on the other whatever side of the Mississippi, right? Uh and the guys are like free. I mean, we're not really free. Like,
Right,
like
right.
it's because the same practices what are up here. It's
Yes,
just in a different way, and
yeah,
I don't think much has changed now, right?
no.
So yeah, that was really powerful, that part for me.
It's interesting that you say that. So I said I was down south um, for some work some years ago, and I said to this white guy, I said, "Man, the black people are really different down here." I
Yeah.
said that to him.
Yeah.
And no, no, I said the white people are really different up down here.
Hmm.
And he said, "Aaron, white people are the same wherever you go. It's the black people that are different." That fucking blew my mind.
Right.
It blew my mind. He said the white people are the same wherever you go. And so I had this conception that, you go down south, there's going to be that blatant racism in your
Right.
face.
Right.
And basically what he was saying to me is, I see it down here, I see it up north, I see it wherever I go. Like, and then I started like, analyzing in my mind, well, I didn't ask him this. I should have asked him this. What did you mean by the black people are different?
Right.
Um, but to that point of there not being this monolith that black people all subscribe to. There was one other thing I want to say about the reading and writing. It was the writing.
Yeah.
Like among the black people, they assumed that they could read, but when he put out a pencil and was writing, they were like, "You
Right.
can write." Like
Right.
that was
Right. When they were all there sitting together. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, yeah,
Right, because why would even be asking for a pencil, you know?
yes, yeah. Oh
Which
man,
makes why when that guy's lynched because the pencil even that much more powerful, right? Like
yes,
and the writing was one of James's ways that he lived into his agency and power, right? Because he had the ability to capture ideas and express things that you know, really his peers couldn't and
right,
even not just his peers, but even though the enslavers, like because a lot of them didn't write, right? Like if you think
yes,
about the Duke and the King, right? They were illiterate, you know? So
right. Probably couldn't
yeah,
read.
yeah.
There was this one quote I wanted to lift up, and I don't know. I didn't mark it. I'm kicking myself now. I'm gonna have to go back and read it. Just so I can go back and mark it. Oh, here it is. It says, but he's writing, he wrote his first thing, and he says, I'm not reading the whole thing, but he says that, but my interest is in how these marks that I am scratching on this page can mean anything at all. If they can have meaning, then life can have meaning, then I can have meaning.
Mm,
And so, like the fact that he looked at writing as a way to make a mark on the world, pun intended, like make a mark on the world to let people know that he existed at some
yes.
point. Because other than that, who would know that
Well,
he ever existed?
and to your previous point, like was his thinking only influenced, but what he saw in all the books that he was reading was that those men were revered. Those men
Yes,
existed because they put their complex thoughts down into written word, and then those written words were passed on and
yes,
so revered. So, like, that was the best demonstration for him of how somebody lives on, right? Because
yes,
his other reality was that multiple people died around him, died in this book, and their existence would never be remembered, right?
yeah,
Because they left no legacy for others to pick up and know their story, for others to pick up and know their experiences, right? So,
right,
yeah, I've written Empowering James to not just be a reader, but to be a writer was also a
yeah.
narrative flip, right? Like,
Oh,
and
yes,
reconsider this the familiar narrative that enslaved people didn't know how to read, enslaved people didn't know how to speak, enslaved people didn't
yeah,
know how to write, enslaved people didn't know how to strategically think, like
yes,
they weren't human. I mean, he brings those elements out in the story and some of the beliefs of the characters, even Huck at the beginning, who's like, well, there's a which is why it's so brilliant that he reveals that
yeah,
Huck's his son, right? Because Huck at the
yes,
beginning is really speaking that language of the familiar narrative of like, there is a difference between us, like,
yes,
a genetic difference between us, a hierarchy of who's better and who's stronger, and yeah, enslaved people can be cool and stuff, but it doesn't mean that you're really as capable as I am.
right, right.
And the whole book is James leading,
Yes,
saving,
yes.
aiding,
Everybody.
guiding everybody to prove that point to not be true. Yeah.
Is there that leads me to wonder, like, is there anything that didn't surprise you?
Well, um, what didn't surprise me? I mean, I think unfortunately what didn't surprise me was the treatment of enslaved people by the white people, right? So it
Hmm.
didn't surprise me that the minstrel guy expected him to work off
Hmm.
his
Hmm.
purchase price. It didn't surprise me that um, the white people in the story were not really there for anybody but their own benefit, right? Like not at
Hmm.
a single turn. So that unfortunately didn't surprise me. Um, yeah, that's probably what didn't surprise me. What didn't
Yeah.
surprise you?
Um, it didn't surprise me when he ran into the two white men
Hmm.
that they were going to try to take him over, like steal him,
Hmm.
steal him. Um, it didn't surprise me that they uh, had cooked up these schemes in order to make money off of different people, like one of them being the religious preacher scheme, and then it didn't that didn't surprise me. Um, when the when Huck was singing in the minstrel show and the woman came up to him and the dad was like touching on his hair, like that's a
Mm,
familiar thing, among particularly black women, like,
right.
someone wanting to just to show ownership and control over their body. That didn't surprise me. And it didn't also I thought the guy was going to come at some back at some point and kill him
Hmm.
because he, saw him talking to his daughter. So like when he showed up in his tent, like that didn't it didn't surprise me.
Right.
And there was one other thing. When he ran into a couple of enslaved people who were like, especially the guy on the steamboat when he was shoveling the coal, he's like,
Oh yeah.
what's his
That he had
Colby
more
Colby?
loyalty to like the boat owner, right? Like the
Yeah,
captain of the
yeah,
boat or whatever, and that
yes.
he was worried about being turned in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he kept calling him by his last name only, he's like, no, that's Mr. So and so. That's Mr. I can't think of his name, right?
Right.
Colby or something like that. He kept correcting him, like, no, you say Master so and so.
Right.
Like,
Right.
unfortunately, that didn't surprise me because I mean, and that was just me and you talking. And so whoever's going to read this, well, we have some people that still do those types of things today, where
Correct.
they are beholden to, the power of white men to control how they act or control what they think, or, like he would have never found out Huck was on the in the hull of this ship, but I guess he figured that at some point he had aligned himself or acclimated himself to being enslaved.
Well,
Um,
sure, or that was a guaranteed and known existence versus what happens if I break rank here, right? What
yeah,
happens if I aid you here? What happens if I turn the other way is an unknown, or it's known for bad, right? Like it's known to
yes,
be so detrimental that it's not worth it. And we see that like I'm gonna save myself.
yes,
And that unfortunately doesn't surprise me, and I see it ringing true today, right? Like so many
yeah,
people are heartbroken and
yes,
can empathize with situations, but they're like, at the
yeah,
end of the day, it's about me, and I got to save myself and my family,
absolutely,
and I'm not going to worry about all that because what can I really do to impact it? So I think the old guy was like, I really can't change this whole system.
right,
So helping you down here doesn't really win me any favors.
yeah.
Not going to help me out, you know. Yeah, so.
Oh,
Um,
wow,
I really appreciate that you suggested this is our first read, because I think it set the stage for, us maybe going on this journey, Aaron, of reading books that make us think a little differently, that make us
yes,
question things that we've learned. This was it wasn't a light book, but it was, fiction is sometimes an easier way to approach that than a
yes,
a real life based book, but I, would love to suggest that we look at this book for our next read. Um,
yes,
it's called One Day Everyone Will Always Have Been Against Us, and it's
yes,
by Omar El-Akkad. It was best-selling book. He won National Book Award for this book. And I think that paints another narrative for us to
yeah,
think about. It's, really about the horrific tragedies that are happening in Palestine, um,
yes,
but taken from a geopolitical standpoint of like one day all of this will have been enough and
yeah.
everybody. And he talks about human history repeating. So I just am really grateful that we're taking this new kind of approach to the podcast because,
I am too because I just we both of us are readers, and I don't know why
Yeah,
we didn't do this before.
I know.
Like both of us, and sometimes I'm like, if I'm the only person that I know that's like reading this book or something like that, like I don't have anybody to talk to about it. So I hang out in bookstores
Yeah.
and talk to people about books. Because, and the funny thing is, I'm glad I did because I've had it for several months and I just didn't read it because I was reading so many other things.
Yeah.
So when we talked about doing this, I'm like, oh, I have the perfect book to start. I haven't read it. Um, I it um yeah, just this idea that we need, we can, I don't say escape reality because this book is very real, but like
Very real. Yeah.
um to a degree, step back from our real world and our real lives just
Hmm.
for a moment
Yeah.
to allow something like this to impact us, which actually helps us to develop a different type of consciousness about what we're facing in reality,
For
which is
sure.
like the
For sure.
um
I agree 100%. I really think um, historical fiction has always been my favorite genre for that reason because it allows me to examine things, but in a way that I can have some distance from the re real life characters that
yes,
are talked about,
yes, absolutely,
on the daily here or that I've read about in my history studies. I really like things being set in a time and being questioned, right? Was that historical
yes,
time viewed in those characters' eyes differently than the way I learned about it in school, right? Which is like
yes,
how powerful this book was to create a new narrative for enslaved people, to
yes,
create a new reality for power and agency during that time. I mean, I think a lot of people have heard stories, seen movies about Harriet Tubman, um,
hmm
but I hated that that was a singular story. Um,
yes,
for so many people. And I think what James does is offer yet another source of inspiration and story and narrative. And that James can represent so many people that were enslaved and the reason why um, you know, Black people, in my humble opinion, are so full of depth and power and grace and intelligence and heart and soul in modern day is because the Jameses of the world existed. Um,
yes,
and and it wasn't just that it's not an either or situation, it's an and, right? So you
yeah,
had the people who did not have James's skill, who still persevered and resisted, and
yes,
you had James, right? It wasn't a
yes,
monolith of
right,
what it meant to be an enslaved person, and I think we need to um, elevate that, right? Like the glory isn't just in the kings and
yes,
kingdoms in Africa. The
yes,
glory was in people like James as well. And
yes,
I want everybody to understand that, right? Like the greatest generations of Black people didn't just exist in the kingdoms and in Africa,
for sure,
right?
for
But
sure,
but there's definitely that narrative that was like these people were, you know, forced over here, stripped down to nothing, treated like animals, and somehow have made their way out. Well, they made their way out because all of that and people like James made sure
yes, for
that
sure.
there was a way out.
For sure. Those are, you make a point about like the untold stories or stories
Yeah,
that don't get told. Like there are millions of untold stories for every, Harriet Tubman. I'm just making up a number. There could
right.
be 10 more that we just don't know about.
Sure.
And it, it really speaks to like this as we're going into a new phase of society, whatever that's, I don't know if it's an awakening or a death,
Right.
whichever one it might be both actually.
Both,
It might be
right.
both happening simultaneously. But like the importance of story in that, the importance
Yes.
of archiving the memories of our ancestors, which can be done through, I believe, through like this informational text or this
Yes.
passing down of stories, or it can be through
Yes.
fiction. It can be through
Yes.
narrative. It can be through,
Yes.
these creative ways that still tell the tell the story, but it can be used. You can have fictional characters do that.
Well, it's why I don't discredit people filming things and telling
Hmm.
stories through videos because it's
Hmm.
the capturing of realities and narratives that might not get told in the press, that might not get told in the official version of the accounting of that, right? So, like that video narrative also tells
Yes.
us those things. I think today's like social media is a reflection of James writing down ideas of like what actually happened and what's going on
Yes.
and my thoughts and reflections. And I think, you know, it also gives us the ability to value all sorts of skills and not just the skills that we're told to value, right? So
Yes.
James's skills of observation, of keen reading of people, of spirit, of energy, of his sense
Yes.
and trusting his senses around things, like, I want people to hold on to that. Like, that's
Yes.
my legacy, right? The
Right.
reason why I'm keen isn't just because I've been taken advantage of for generations. The
Right.
reason why I'm keen is because my people, my ancestors, had this skill and they developed it and they were put into
Yes.
situations for good or bad where that skill got overdeveloped. You know, white people are gullible because they've never had to be in a situation where they've had to read the room. If you
Yes.
have the power in the room. You don't have to read it, you
Right.
know?
Oh.
But
Oh.
but like there's so many things about this book and about how James is characterized that I really want every single person to read it, to
Yes.
reflect, take pride in like, this is legacy and this is ancestry as well. Um,
Yes.
and it's beautiful and it's worth every single page.
Yes. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. There are times when I wouldn't say exhausted, but like I get mentally like fatigued when I'm
Yes.
reading a book, and
Yes.
like I'll get like halfway through and I'll put it down for like a week and then go back to it.
Yeah. No.
Not for this.
James was a page turner.
Yes.
I didn't want to put it down. I'm just going to tell the listener if they're not into it. I think it's like 200, no, 302 pages. No,
Yeah.
longer. 303 pages or something, right? This next book that I'm recommending is much shorter.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. It is 200 nope, it's 187 pages.
I'm,
This is a
I
heavy,
am.
this is a heavy read.
I'm not kidding. As soon as we get off of this, I'm going to go grab it. Like
Good.
you,
Good.
I was gonna try to go to the bookstore before we started recording, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not gonna make it, so I'm going right after
All
this.
right, so for anyone listening to us and you want to read along, this is the next one we're going to be reading, and the next time you see us, we will be discussing that, and there'll be a hefty discussion. But I really do
Who's,
invite all of you. Yeah,
who's the author again?
Omar Al-Akkad, Akkad. Omar
Okay.
Al-Akkad. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Sweet.
I guess I could take background off, but that's it. Anyway, I thank you, Aaron. This was great.
Thank you. Oh, oh my God, I love this. I
And you
love.
know what? And James, I think, is gonna stay next to. I have a list, like a collection of books that I reread.
Uh-huh.
James will definitely be a reread eventually.
I, I am actually gonna go. I'm a Percival Everett fan now, because I didn't know the movie American Fiction was based off of his book Erasure.
Oh, okay.
So
Neither did I. I love that movie though.
and I do too, and I only know that because I was in the bookstore talking
Yeah,
to the bookstore owner, and she's like,
yeah.
"Yeah, you know his book Erasure was made into a movie,"
Well, he's a
and
brilliant
so
writer.
he
Is that
is.
semi-autobiographical?
What,
Erasure
Erasure?
and American Fiction?
No, no. She told me
Yeah.
that it was a response to the book Push by
Mm,
Sapphire,
mm.
and that book was made into the movie Precious. And so what she said was that he didn't like the depictions of the main character Precious. He didn't like
Just
how she was depicted
right.
because it was like gratuitous and all of the
And
bad
all the
things about,
stereotypes. Yeah, yeah.
yes. And so,
Drugs. Wait, yeah, everything. Right.
right.
Yeah.
So he wrote Erasure as a response, like this hyperbole to that.
Got it. Makes sense. Knowing that
Yes.
context makes sense.
Yes.
All right. So for those listeners, you've just encountered two. This is our side that we didn't show before, but like the book nerd side. So welcome.
Yes.
It's nice to see you.
And I'm saying like how come we didn't do like we talk about stuff we
I
read
know. The
all the
thing is,
time, but just
and
never.
Spencer's a big reader too. Like he sent me a recommendation. It's called Belonging Without Othering. And
Oh,
so
okay.
maybe
Oh,
that will be
sweet.
our third book. Who knows? But
Okay, all right, let's
yeah.
do it. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
All
Shout
right.
out to Spencer. We miss
Yes,
you.
we
We miss
miss
you,
you. We
bro.
love you.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
for everybody else, we'll see you next time.
All right. It's
All
great.
right.
Take care. Take care, everyone.
This episode of Endless Evolution is brought to you by the No Harm Organization, uplifting wholeness and humanity. Our featured music is Humanity by Lava Laru.